In northern India, an enigmatic fortress dominates the landscape, thanks to one man's ultimate sacrifice. While off the coast of England, a World War II battle station transforms into a pirate hideout. And in Taiwan, a town honors a plague-killing god by jumping into the line of fire. I'm Josh Gates. I've traveled millions of miles and explored over 100 countries. Aussie, here I come. And my favorite destinations have epic tales to tell. These are the stories and the secrets of those legendary locations. 4,000 miles away from the Great Wall of India, just off the coast of England, another legendary fort still stands, though only barely, because this one was built in the sea, and it's been battered by brutal waves for 75 years. Like many forts, it was originally built as an instrument of war, in this case as a way to shoot Nazis out of the sky. But what happened here decades later would transform it into something else entirely, a pirate kingdom that defied the law and became the stuff of legend. "50 miles east of London, a network of otherworldly structures rises out of the rough North Sea. They look like Imperial walkers from Star Wars, but not long ago, these were the outposts of some very real-world outlaws. Britain, 1940. Nazi air raids rained down fire in a bloody campaign known as the Blitz. Reeling from the attacks and needing to protect the capital, the British military turns to civil engineer Guy Monsell, the man and the name behind the now legendary Monsell Army sea forts. Each of the strategically located forts is a cluster of 7 interconnected steel structures on stilts. At their peak, each fort houses 265 men. They become famous for their firepower, destroying 22 enemy aircraft and 30 flying bombs. The forts shoot down enough Nazis to help ensure that England lives to fight another day. But at war's end, the forts are abandoned, until 2 decades later, when new residents move in. This is David Phillips of Project Red Sand, a group dedicated to protecting and restoring the last intact Army sea fort. Today, he's taking the 13-mile journey there with Bob Leroy, a man who knows better than anyone what the fort looked like in its prime, having spent 3 years working there, not as a military man, but as a DJ for pirate radio. That's right, pirate radio. In the mid-1960s, the sea forts became ground zero for another fight waged by the Brits, not for the fate of the free world, but for the right to rock and roll. In the early 1960s, at the height of the British invasion, UK citizens don't have the whole history of music in their pockets like we do today. They have transistor radios, with only one station, the BBC, run by the British government. But the station only plays 1 hour of pop music a week, and with independent broadcasts prohibited by law, where were avid music listeners to go? Enter a group of renegade, rock-loving DJs. They take to the water and set up shop in the sea forts that were located in international waters outside the reach of government. They broadcast whatever music they like, 24/7 to 20 million listeners a day, becoming the pirates of radio.
The 60s were the catalyst of youth getting its own say, having its own identity through clothing, through music. It was an explosion, and radio fitted nicely into all that.
Thanks to pirate radio stations, Brits now have a way to listen to bands like the Beatles. Even the Rolling Stones get some of their earliest exposure on pirate stations. David and Bob arrive at the sea fort and make their way to where the music magic happened.
Yes, been a while, I have to say, since we've been up here.
The original switches are still there and everything.
Shall we see if it works?
Not a chance.
Though it may be rusting away, much of Red Sands is recognizable from 50 years ago. From its mess halls to its sleeping quarters and maintenance rooms. Everything a pirate radio team needed was here, which is why it was fought over aggressively. Yep, these guys were pirates in more ways than one. There were more stations than there were sea forts, which led to some serious turf wars. DJs were tossed into the drink. There were midnight raids, coups and kidnappings, and in one case, even murder. Six miles off the coast of England stands the abandoned Red Sands Army Sea Fort that transformed into the home of pirate radio, a society of renegade DJs who brought independent broadcasting to the British public. Here, rival stations literally fought straight-up pirate style for this real estate, which was out of reach of British broadcasting laws. It turned into real danger on the high seas. In 1966, a station shut out of a deal with its rival staged a midnight raid to shut down their transmitters. And when the two stations' leaders met to negotiate terms, one was shot and killed. With the turmoil spiraling out of control, the British Parliament placed the forts under governmental supervision in 1967, and then gradually shut them down. Red Sands and other sea forts certainly have a mighty past, as Nazi defense bases turned revolutionary beacons for rock and roll. But who knows, with the work of people like David and Bob protecting and restoring them for the future, maybe they'll be reinvented once more. No matter where your journeys take you, you're sure to find magnificent storied places built on sacrifice for the greater good. Whether it's an epic wall erected to protect fellow citizens, towers that once took down Nazis and launched a revolution over the air, or a town where people today risk their own safety to ensure good fortune for all. I'm Josh Gates. Travel adventurously, and I'll see you next time on Legendary Locations.